A lot of fun that first couple years, because we were trying to knock the Islanders out.
Veuve Clicquot, hundreds of thousands of dollars of Veuve Clicquot being sprayed on one another. You get literally half the people were almost naked.
In the PWHL, I've watched and seen some highlights and some games. Like there's some physicality too, right? And
Sure.
it seems like when the girls, when they do that, it's a much better game.
The last one, Kane, he gets tripped up, gets it to May, and over the line. He's May going in on goal. He scores.
Welcome to the Overtime with Mayday podcast.
Welcome, Brad. What's going on, pal? How you been? What have you been up to? It's been a while since we've gotten together for one of our podcasts, so I'm thankful to be here with you. What's going on?
Yeah, me too, Rocco. You know what? It's been an amazing time, to be quite honest with you. My wife and I, we just got back from Aspen, Colorado. So we're just prior to Christmas and, obviously looking forward to that. But I had a wonderful time in a hockey event called the Aspen Classic. And there was about 40 players came out. They're raising money. They raised almost $1 million for an academy and for youth hockey. You imagine it's one of the wealthiest zip codes in the country in Aspen. However, a lot of the people that work in Aspen and then have children that are, playing youth sports, they're obviously, the ones that are working and they're not as wealthy. And it's $3,000 a square foot to buy a house or to possibly even rent one there. It's pretty difficult. So there's a lot of people that are struggling or certainly need some aid. And bunch of great guys. From Brian Berard, who was actually working and leading the program for his good friend Sheldon. They're actually Sheldon Wolitsky, I think is his last name. Fantastic guy, devoting his time and his efforts. He lives in Aspen and he's making a difference for everybody else that's there. So it's really exciting. We got to play some hockey. There was a little fantasy camp component to it. And then we got to go skiing. And then the greatest part of the trip outside of raising all that money, we went to Cloud 9, which, if you haven't heard of Cloud 9, incredible cabin at the top of Aspen Highlands Mountain, and Veuve Clicquot, hundreds of thousands of dollars of Veuve Clicquot being sprayed on one another. You get literally half the people were almost naked, tunes blaring, DJ rolling. It's one of the greatest afternoon parties I've been to.
That is awesome. Actually, I heard about the fundraising event. It's for an arena and equipment. And it makes so much sense. I mean, you've got the working class supporting, the people that live in that Aspen area, right? I mean, you get the school teachers, there's, restaurateurs, there's business people, there's the people doing the work, right? So, I think anytime you can introduce the great sport of hockey to anybody, especially underserviced areas or people that, don't usually or don't normally or can't afford to play this great game.
And it's amazing. Obviously, since COVID and the ability to work from home and work remotely, a lot of people have picked up and moved to these vacation destinations that were traditionally vacation destinations. Now they're living there. So there's a lot of East Coasters, a lot of people from down south in Texas and Florida that said, you know what, enough's enough. Let's pick up and move to Aspen or those mountain communities. So with that, you're going to be skiing, and of course, kids are in school. And what other things that you do during the winter? Hockey's a big part of it there in Colorado. So it was really cool. Henrik Lundqvist was there with us. Marc-Andre Fleury. Yeah, like you being a goaltender, you get that. I was pretty fired up to meet Henrik, and Marc-Andre Fleury was there as well, and along with
legends.
Ben Scrivens was another goaltender that was there with us. And then you had players, Brian Berard, Joffrey Lupul, Scotty Upshaw, and a bunch of Colorado Avalanche alumni. Matthew Barnaby was there, who has been on our pod before. We had a lot of fun.
That is awesome. I heard you were actually doing some golfing stuff as well. We got to talk about that just briefly. Just let me know what you've been doing. I know that you're just about a scratch golfer, right?
Well, you know what? My handicap is my index, because everything goes off the index. I'm a 1.6 or 1.5 index, which probably puts me at a 3 or 4 handicap, which actually is the best I've played. I've kind of got myself there. I didn't play very well last week, but I was in Orlando before I went to Aspen, playing in an incredible event. It's called the Pro. 80 professional athletes, a huge prize purse. It's real golf, Stableford point system. And the winner, Tyler Clippard, he's a Major League Baseball player of Tyler Clippard. He won, and he won $70,000. And everybody's, has the ability or a chance to win money. So we've actually had to renounce our amateur status to play on this tour. And it's really cool. You got to collect points to kind of keep going. I believe it's 6 events through the year. And then the 7th event could be a Ryder Cup scenario with all the sports against sports. So a year ago, the first one I ever played in, it was 12 hockey players in a Ryder Cup format against baseball, basketball, and football. But they changed the formatting a little bit to bring in Marty Fish, who was, he's an unbelievable golfer. But of course, he was #1 in the world in tennis at one time. He won, I think multiple times he's won the Lake Tahoe event in the summer, the Celebrity Golf Tour or event in, I'm not exactly sure, the American Express or whatever it's called, but Mark Rippon, he's won it. Dan Quinn's won it. Tony Romo was in this event. We're looking at amazing. I got to play with Vince Carter. I'm from Toronto, Air Canada Carter. It was
How amazing is
pretty
that?
amazing. Got to play golf with him and J.R. Smith, who was a NBA champion, but then went back to college to take a run at becoming a professional golfer. And all these guys are in there. So I'm kind of out of my league a little bit, but I'm going to play as long as I can until I don't play well enough to make enough points to move on. But what an unbelievable experience. And it's so
Man,
cool to compete on the golf course. It really is.
totally. And
Yeah.
the friendships you make and the relationships you make are transcendent, right? It's great that it's different sports. So you're trying to really see the different characters, but they're the same characters, but they're different within the different sport world,
Well,
right?
it's cool. Like, so all these guys, and I say a lot of these guys will have an opportunity to bring on our podcast, talk to a few of them about it. Eddie Jones was a fantastic guy. Josh Donaldson, former Major League Baseball player, amazing. John Smoltz, Tom Glavine, Wally Joyner. Like, you go down the line or list as a sports fan, and me being one of them. But as a sports fan, watching those other sports, it was really cool. And then you're on the golf course competing with one another. The one guy I did play with, who to me was the best golfer I've ever played with, Aaron Hicks, former New York Yankee. I believe he's married into Tiger Woods' family. So there's something there. But this guy, he has a swing speed of over 130. He hits the ball 360 yards and dead straight. Maybe a 2 to 5 yard, little draw. Unbelievable. Way out of my league completely. But you learn a little bit when you play with guys like that.
Yeah. All right, let's drop the puck today and talk with our next guest. Played 1 year for the Red Deer Rustlers, the Alberta Junior Hockey League. Played 3 years with the Lethbridge Broncos in the Western Hockey League. And he and his twin brother helped lead the team to a Memorial Cup in 1983. Selected 10th overall in 1982 NHL amateur draft by the Pittsburgh Penguins. Played 13 seasons with Pittsburgh, Philadelphia, the Vancouver Canucks, St. Louis Blues, Chicago Blackhawks, Toronto Maple Leafs, and Tampa Bay Lightning. Played a total of 874 games, regular season games, 149 goals, 166 apples, and 315 points total, and over 1,400 PIMs. God bless you. He is part of the incredible and legendary Sutter family from Viking, Alberta, that sent 6 brothers, that's right, 6 brothers to the NHL. And my only claim to fame with this amazing family of his is that I went to his brother's hockey school twice in Sylvan Lake, Alberta. I would like to welcome one of our very good friends to the Overtime with Mayday Hockey podcast, Rich Sutter. Welcome to the pod, Sazi.
Well, thank you guys. It's so good to be on with you guys and great to see your smiles. And let's have some fun here today.
Brad, over to you, buddy.
Well, to kick it off, so playing hockey, being on a team, and of course, we're going to get into, how locker room and how teams work and what are the dynamics that are needed to become a winner. We always talk about playing with our brothers. Now, you grew up with a hockey team and a hockey team of NHL players with real brothers. Is there any correlation to your relationship with, of course, your twin, Ronnie, but also your brothers and the brothers you played with on said teams?
Yeah, I mean, there absolutely was a correlation. It was so easy to define, when you have brothers that you grew up with is one thing, and you did so many things through your childhood lives together and still do through at this stage in our lives as we are today. But there's a brotherhood, and we have a very unique brotherhood in the hockey world, as you know, Brad. And it's something it's hard for a lot of people to truly understand, that how close you can become, how you are with each other. um Look, I've been traded, you've been traded. It's not easy to go from a locker room that you were comfortable with your guys, to go to another locker room. But the easiest thing that I always thought was the best part was knowing you're lucky enough, you would probably know someone in the next locker room. But the best part about it was how guys looked out for each other, how guys were there for each other. It's a unique brotherhood in how our sport works. I guess you could see it maybe in bits and pieces with baseball teams like the Blue Jays had this fall. But I just think that we're a unique group. Our sport is a unique sport where how guys look out for each other, how guys take care of each other. And obviously, it's no different than a family. Like you talk about my own brothers. Sometimes there's disagreements and you agree to disagree, and sometimes you got to straighten some things out, good, bad, or indifferent. But it's no different when you walk into a locker room with a bunch of hockey players, and that's the one thing that was probably my saving grace over my career, was knowing that when I could walk into a locker room, and that was really important.
Rock.
Yeah. It's great when you hear your story about your twin brother. I remember when I was at the Sylvan Egg Hockey School, you guys were up and coming, and it was a lot of talk about you guys and Lethbridge and what you were doing while we were there. And as a goalie, an old goalie that I am always going to kind of key in on a couple. And you played with some beauties, man. I mean, you played with Kenny Reggett in your time. And I don't even know if he was in Pittsburgh at that time. I don't think he was.
Lethbridge.
Yeah, Lethbridge for sure. But he was injured during that. Give any good goalie scores? And you played with Pele Lindbergh as well, Bob Froese, I believe. So any good goalie stories? Because I got to ask one of those, at least just for the brotherhood of goalies out there.
Well, there's always good goalie stories. I mean, Brad would have a few too. If you like to go to the net, how we both did, you're always gonna have a goalie story with somebody, right? Hanging around the
Absolutely.
crease and falling on goalies and getting in goalies' grill. Special to us in the sense that, look, you knew you had to rely on your goalie was there to stop the puck, and you didn't have good goaltending. Doesn't matter if it's Mighty Might or Tiny Might or Peavy growing up. If you didn't have goaltending at any level, you were never going to have much of a chance of having any success. Obviously, when you're little, like, winning and losing wasn't the end of the world like it can be now once you get to the more competitive levels. But the goalie stories were bountiful in terms of great teammates, great goalies, the Curtis Josephs of the world, the Kirk McLeans, Brad. That's good individuals. And I had a few guys too that I thought were a little bit off the rockers. The guys who I played against that ended up playing with, like Eddie Balfour was one, who I loved to get underneath his skin when we had the rivalry between the Blackhawks and the Blues, and they ended up becoming a teammate of his. And Patrick Cole is another guy. I love to get in Patty's grill too, and I never had a problem doing that whenever we played Montreal once or twice a year. So that was a lot of fun. But I think the biggest thing was the goalies. There's a lot of really cool guys. They can be different animals. There's no doubt, and how they are and how they prepare and how they just live their lives. But the goalie things, back then you can't get away with the things now that we used to do then. The goalie come out of the net and you'd run him over, right? there'd be a full scale brawl. Now you were doing it because you were looking for something like that to happen. Nowadays you can't touch anyone. And then with all their what $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 worth of gear they got on, you
At
barely
least.
touch them. You barely touch them, and there's a freaking yard sale. But and then it goes a little squirrely after that with a few guys. But there's no fighting and real fighting going on now like it was back then, right, Brad? When you were dropping your gloves back then, you were dropping your gloves and you were going.
Yeah, 100%. Now, asking a question, did you ever fight a goaltender?
And junior a couple times, yes. And pro, I never really had a chance because when you hit a goal, someone was already on your back so fast, right?
BioThrive, whether you're dealing with low energy, stubborn weight gain, or just feeling like you're not yourself anymore, it's time to take control, like I did with many of my friends. Our friends over at biothrive.com are real deal when it comes to hormone optimization. They've got personalized plans to help you get the energy back, boost your performance, and even shed those extra pounds. I'm looking lean, as are the boys on the team are, without gimmicks or guesswork. Head over to biothrivelife.com. That's BIOTHRIVE life.com right now. Check out for a free consultation. And because you're a listener to the Mayday podcast, mention this podcast, score $100 off your first appointment and treatment. That's $100. I said it right. BioThriveLife.com.
Nowadays, there's just a lot of loving and hugging going on.
You know what? I miss a little bit of that. There's a streak of no lack of consequence. I call it. There's a lack of consequence in the game today. Look, it's fast. It's great. The edges that these guys have are amazing. I love the hockey, but miss I miss the fact that there's no negative consequence for taking liberties with individuals that are stars, whether it's a goalie or whether it's a player. Miss that.
Well,
Richie,
now, like,
I was going to
go
ask
ahead,
you,
Brad.
so if you were in a room full of women, and just imagine Mrs. Sutter, Mama Sutter, your mom, of what she had to witness her boys battle and compete and play, and of course follow you guys through your careers. But if you're in a banquet room full of women that maybe are anti-violence or anti-fighting, how do you sell the game of hockey to them?
Well, that's a great question, Brad, and I think it's one that people argue both sides of it. I don't know how you can take the physicality out of the game. And when you have physicality, it leads to the odd fight. We were at a game. I was at a game with my son at a junior game here just the other night. You're looking around, and my wife was sitting with us too, and there's a fight. And you had all these kids screaming in the stands, fight, fight, hit them. And there's even some women doing it too, right? So you're saying to yourself, yeah, you think you're going to take hockey and you're going to have a game of hockey and take fighting out of the game? Like, look at the crowd. There's even women screaming for it. Mm, But you look at, there's your one angle, and the other angle, I don't think it'll ever work. If you think you're going to take it out of the game or try to, I would probably would not waste my time wasting my energy and wanting to even try to stop short of arguing with someone and think that, well, no, you can't have that in the game. But I think you see, even in the PWHL, I've watched and seen some highlights and some games, like there's some physicality too, right? And
For sure.
it seems like when the girls, when they do that, it's a much better game.
Yeah.
Yeah, the pace is not how a lot of the other levels of hockey might be, but at the end of the day, if you see the compete and there's some physical part of the game, I think this is a great. My wife calling me.
Yeah, no, we'll get her on. We'll get her on the pod for sure. Yeah, she's probably calling to complain. Don't say anything about the fighting.
No, she's wondering where the hell, who's got the
Oh
kids.
no, right? No, look, I think that intensity, like you're playing at a fast rate of speed. There's collisions that occur.
Shit happens.
It is the nature of that game. Yeah, I look, and we have a new PHL team here in Seattle, and their first home opener, there was a fight. All right. I mean, and it's not like they're staging it for a fight. It's like, the emotions go up. It's like watching Team Canada, Team USA play. It's like, people are at the edge of the seat, and you love that. I mean, we would go back to the Four Nations, that first game with USA Canada, the fight dropped the gloves before the puck, or as the puck drops. I mean, that was amazing. I mean, I was so into that game. I was like revved up, you know?
I think honestly, I've been to some major junior games in the Pacific Northwest this winter, the first half of the season, and obviously some games in Canada. I think the American side, the American people get way more wound up when they see a fight. They get way more excited. And I say men and women and children. I think in Canada we just say, "Oh, it's a fight. That's awesome." I mean, there's some excitement about it. When you go to the games in the States, you go to something like, I can use Ever as an example, or Portland or Seattle, and there's a fight, and people are going freaking crazy. Like you look
Crazy.
around and go like, "This is hockey, baby."
Hockey. I honestly think it's what makes hockey really special. I was just this past week, I was with a bunch of other athletes, football, baseball, and basketball players. And the thing that they wanted to hear about was, as physical as football is, obviously the penalties that are laid out really dictate the game. There's a lot of and you have a second opportunity typically, because the way football is played, that you can go after and get that guy, whoever you're targeting. So it's a violent sport, no question, but fighting's not allowed. In basketball, it's not allowed. And however, those guys are 7 feet tall, and they're massive, and the power that they generate, guys would probably get hurt 100%. But in hockey, that's what these guys wanted to talk about. They love the speed. They love the idea. A lot of them obviously have never skated before, but they love the ability that we have. They think that we're great athletes. But what they're most excited to talk about was the fighting. And they brought up that US Canada game. And you know what's amazing to me was it wasn't just one sector, it was every sport. Basketball, baseball, and football were watching last season, watching Team Canada, Team USA, and I would they were cheering for the Americans because most of them are probably American, but so exciting to the sport. And I think it's what makes us unique. The character that drives from that.
100% agree. I think it's awesome. That's a great question, Rocco.
Here's another question for you. So you were a player, you got into scouting, coaching, and being a mentor, and of course your son as well. Were you more nervous watching your son play than preparing yourself?
Well, I knew that he grew up watching. It was kind of funny. Like when he was a little guy with Timbits or Tim Hortons hockey, all he ever grew up watching was, like when he was watching games, if you didn't have the puck, you forechecked, you hit someone, you took the puck away from someone, right? Um, he grew up saying, "Oh, well, that's how you play the game. Like get engaged, get involved," and he loved doing it. Uh, and as he got older, yeah, you knew he aspired to be a hockey player and to be at least working with an NHL hockey club. And when he got into major junior, he was a young guy. He was 16 playing in a 17, 18-year-old 19 league where he wanted to get involved. And some nights I would just tell him like, "Hey, look, like, you know what? Like you got to pick your battles, but you got to be smart too, right?" But there were some nights like it was funny. We were just telling one of our grandkids the other day when Luke was with us. He was telling a story to our oldest one about the first game that your nana was at a game with Papa, and Uncle Luke fought. I fought this guy that was like I was 6 feet tall, 180 pounds at 16, but I was fighting this guy was named Joel Edmondson, was 6'3", 6'4", and already 215 pounds, and he punched some of Luke's teeth out that night. And his mother didn't like it too much. She's sitting in the stands and she could see someone picking up chiclets on the ice. And he's going, Jesus Christ, he just got his
We spent
bad
all
teeth
that
and
money, all that good
all that
hard-earned
money, and he
money, and it
goes and
just
gets
spent
his
them out.
goddamn teeth knocked out. And then he ended up, that was the middle part of the game, and he came back out and he fought again in the third period. And it was in the old tin can, the old Orange Crush tin can of Moose Jaw. And that's where there was no place to hide in that rink. You either you game out and played, or you didn't bother coming.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
That's crazy.
In the third period, and his mother said to him after the game, she said, "If I have to drive 6 hours and watch you do that again, I will never come back and watch you play."
I love it. I love it. I grew up in Yellowknife, Northwest Territories. My father would come out to the games every once in a while. We had an old barn back there that didn't have any glass along the sides back originally. My father, back in the day, they used to bring up people to work in the mines who could play hockey from Ontario, from all over Canada, and they would work in the mines. There's two competing mines that would played against each other. And my father, I think, ended up getting in a fight, and they banned him from life from the arena or something like that because he headbutted one of the hockey players over the boards. It's just back in the 50s and 60s, that was the thing, the Saturday night game, right? I mean, part of the process, and you couldn't hide in a barn like that, right? Listen, I got to ask you, so you got any good stories about Bobby Clark? And I also have to ask about your brother. You played with your brother in Philly, right? And
Yeah.
everybody says there's a connection and twins and stuff like that. So what was that like as well? So I got a two-parter there for you.
Well, my first full year coming out of junior, I was traded actually about a week or two after training camp from Pittsburgh to the Flyers. And Pittsburgh was not a very good organization hockey team at the time, sadly, because I wanted to be part of the solution of trying to turn the organization around. And unfortunately, Mario was drafted a year or 2 years after I was traded from there. and look where it got to. And to think back, it sure would have been nice to stay there. But to get an opportunity to go to Philly, play with an established team that was a really good hockey team, a lot of well-known hockey players. It was really right at the back end of the Broad Street Bully era. There were some crazy guys on our hockey team. Clarkey, I got to play 1 year with him. He was the captain, but we had a lot of guys in that team that we're talking like the Paul Hungerns of the world, the Glennie Cochrans, the Frank Bays, like the Randy Holtz. And we had guys that, I mean, when things went astray on the ice,
The eye went a little crazy.
Randy Holt is legendary.
you never had to worry about doing and getting involved when you're around that team. The time I spent there, because you always knew there was at least 4 or 5 other guys that were more than willing to help out, and you didn't have to look for them. You knew they were always there. So I think that was the greatest thing about it. Taught me a lot about, a lot of stuff that went on. It was crazy in junior, and then it was kind of like, okay, here we are in pro, and then when things got a little crazy some nights, you just knew that you talk about brotherhood, Brad, earlier. Boy, you didn't have to be looking over your shoulder to see if someone was coming to help you. If you were willing to maybe start something or do something, you knew that you're always going to have backup.
So you're talking about brotherhood and your brothers. What's the best attributes of your brothers individually? So for Ronnie, what did he do best as a hockey player? For Brian, what did he do best? For Daryl, what did he do best? And Dwayne.
I think Ronnie and Brent were the 2 most talented, skilled guys out of the whole group. They both were very they could both fight. I'll tell you a great story of one night. Uh, I'll tell you a story, but anyways, Brian was obviously tough. Brian was pound for pound one of the toughest guys I ever played against. Daryl was uniquely skilled. He wasn't a great skater, but his hockey IQ and his puck skills and shot were really elite at that time in the game. Dwayne was also played more like I did. I still don't think he was ever as tough as I was. He had more skill than I did. He had a terrible knee injury his first year at the Islanders. It really cost him his career. I wouldn't say it cost him his career, but it took time off his career where had he not had such a brutal knee injury, he probably would have been able to play longer. But yeah, so and then getting a chance to play with your brothers in the NHL, other than minor hockey or junior, was so, you just wouldn't fathom it happening. Like when we were drafted in the first public forum draft in Montreal at the old forum, Ronnie went 4th overall to Flyers, and I went 10th to Pittsburgh. And before the end of the day was even out, each team was trying to trade for the other guy. So it was kind of crazy on October 23rd in 82 when I was traded, 83 when I was traded to Flyers. It was an opportunity to get to play with him, which I thought was really cool. There hadn't been many twins at the time. The Suntrums were just maybe just a year or 2 behind us, Patrick and Peter, and then obviously the Sedins came along. The Ferraro boys had a cup of coffee in the NHL too. Just to play with a brother, not just a twin, was really cool. I'm sure our parents were really thought it was really nice. It wasn't a lot of fun that first couple of years, because we were trying to knock the Islanders out. So it was 2 brothers on the other team and us on one team, and we hated each other. And you want to talk about brotherhood? Well, there was no problem picking and drawing the line in the sand. Those guys, the other 2 guys with the same last name, and the other team, if we had to talk to them after the game, we would. But other than that, our brothers were our guys that wore the same color jersey as us, and there was no problem getting pissed off at those other guys on the other team.
So when you got home to the farm in the summer, would they put on a Philadelphia Flyer T-shirt?
Not a chance.
Not a chance. Like this was completely tribal. Completely tribal.
Well, yeah, it was crazy. I remember one day it was our first second year in the Flyers, and back then, it was like, Brad, there was no commercials. There was maybe one time out, the 10-minute mark, they'd blow the whistle or whatever, and you stand around. But now it's like every 5 minutes, right? Or every 4.5 minutes. But either way, we're standing around, and no one ever had to go to the players' boxes. So we're standing around. We're in Uniondale one night, and I don't know what happened, and we're all on the ice together. And it was probably Dwayne. I'm sure it was Dwayne. He'll probably want to argue the fact, but I'm quite certain it was. He started chirping about something to one of our guys, and I stepped in there. And the next thing you know, there's like, you look around, there's 10 guys on ice, and there's 4 guys going at it.
No way.
And obviously the same last name, and 2 great linesmen who you would know, Ray Scapanello
Yep. Scappy.
and Ronnie Fenn.
Yep.
And they didn't know what to do. I guess everyone was just kind of standing around like, what's going on here? And they didn't know what to do. And finally he screamed out loud, Scappy did, like something like to the fact, like, okay, enough, you guys. Like, your mother and father in that great big satellite dish in Alberta at the farm watching that game. They're going to be so embarrassed. You should be so embarrassed. Stop. Just stop. Can't always stop.
Unreal.
And,
Unreal.
and we go to the penalty box, and I'm trying to, I don't know, it was Andy Van Helmen was reffing that night. And he just gave us all minors. He said, it'd be too embarrassing to give you all fighting majors because your mother and father would be so embarrassed. Give them all minors.
So the next day they read the little box score in the newspaper, because chances are they're not watching it, right?
Right, right.
Amazing.
And they saw minors.
Oh, that's so perfect. And you
Yeah.
guys got your licks in.
We got our licks in.
Wow.
And I was so pissed off at Dog, Dwight, my brother Dwight. Because he was all the time.
But so talking about this whole thing, tell me about your family reunions, because I think well documented. And as a hockey player, I've been sitting around talking to you, but your family reunions as your families individually have grown. What's the spirit like at the Sutter farm?
It's awesome. This past year, we had a Daryl Wanda's at the old homestead yard. Daryl bought the yard, bought it from Mom, and basically built a big new home on it. We still have the old home on it. Cleaned the whole yard out, redid the barns, and new corrals, and all types of new grain bins and Quonsets for the farm equipment and stuff. But it was really that was kind of one of those aha moments for me where we stood back after the weekend and we just went. Most of those brothers went, that was so much fun. Because I think at the time there was 73 of us, counting kids and grandkids, and like I think 68 were able to make it. Some of the little ones the younger ones had dance competitions or something going on in the middle of the summer, but able to get there. And the coolest thing about it, Daryl's got this yard. It's about 2 or 3 square miles, just the yard. And it's all done in the old Western style wooden fences. And we brought in a wagon train. We brought in horse-drawn wagons. We brought in a temporary pool, all kinds of stuff to keep the kids all amused, and all types of games and all kinds of stuff going on. And Daryl just told the oldest ones, got all the kids together and said, okay, here's the deal. We're here 2 days. We're not going to babysit. But you see these wooden fences, these yards outside the perimeter of the yards, and the kids are all looking. He's going, take a look at them. No one is allowed outside these because we don't want to have to come and find you if you get lost. Because there's ponds out there, the dangers of, still. And you got all you want inside here, all the fun you want. So and kind of laid the lay of the law down for a couple of days, and it was 2 days that we had so much fun, a lot of eating, a lot of drinking, a lot of storytelling, a lot of music. I even had a Mexican fiesta with drank a tequila in about 2 hours with us one day. We just had fun. It was great. We had a big pig roast one night and a big steakout the next night. There was no shortage of food, and the best thing about it, we all walked away and we all said to each other, over 48 hours, everybody involved, there was not one argument, there was not one disagreement. None of the kids got in a fight with each other. There was no pissing and moaning and crying. And we're just going like, can't believe how much fun that was. And it was awesome.
Oh, that's incredible. That's incredible. Yeah, it was really sad to hear about the passing of your dad. Yeah, obviously passed a couple of years ago. How's your mom doing? She's doing okay?
Mom's good. Mom will be 90 on March 11th. She's moved into town, living in a condo. She is living by herself. She's still doing well. So we're just going to let her ride that out for now. And, we all talk to her. Everyone, we try and see her as much as we can. We'll go up and spend a day before Christmas with her. Yeah, so she's doing well. Thank you.
BioThrive, whether you're dealing with low energy, stubborn weight gain, or just feeling like you're not yourself anymore, it's time to take control, like I did with many of my friends. Our friends over at biothrive.com are real deal when it comes to hormone optimization. They've got personalized plans to help you get the energy back, boost your performance, and even shed those extra pounds. I'm looking lean, as are the boys on the team are, without gimmicks or guesswork. Head over to biothrivelife.com. That's BIOTHRIVE life.com right now. Check out for a free consultation. And because you're a listener to the Mayday podcast, mention this podcast, score $100 off your first appointment and treatment. That's $100. I said it right. biothrivelife.com.
Yeah, no worries at all.
All right, here's a question for you. We're embarking on 2026. What do you look forward most in this upcoming year? And what was the best memory of 2025 for you?
A lot of great memories. The time we have in 2025 is always the family time I cherish the most. I would say having a new granddaughter in the last month, number 6, is awesome. They live a mile from us, so I get to see that little one and her siblings very often. Lots of papa duties. So I would say for me, we had lots of highlights in 2025, Brad, but that one, I think, having a new grandchild would be the one that sticks out the most. 26, staying healthy. We've all lost someone in our last year or so, friends, family, hard times with some people, and just trying good health and happiness for a lot of the people who we know. That to me, that's the biggest thing. We look really forward to, my wife Ron is thinking she's going to retire in April. So there'll be some probably traveling. So we'll be looking forward to some traveling, just not across Canada, but probably worldwide. And to me, also, what I've done the last year too, Brad, is what you do a lot of as well, and that is to contribute back and support charities of all types of different things across North America. I think that's what we should be doing. We have a ton of fun doing it because for me, it's a great opportunity to get to be with my other brothers and spend and have a ton of fun. To me, that's very important to give back. And that's all over North America. And I think that's really cool, whether it's golf tournaments, hockey games, hot stoves, dinners, speaking engagements, giving back. And I think that's one thing that it's a wonderful thing that the hockey world does. And there's a really good group of guys out there doing it these days.
Love that answer.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. We all know about the legendary post-career scouting and your brothers and coach. So give us a little quick rundown on, what you've been doing. I know you do a lot of charity stuff. I know you're involved in the community. What do you do for, just for, that side gig or side hitch? I mean, you've got such hockey knowledge and hockey sense. That whole family of yours does. How are you sharing that with some of these new groups out there?
Well, you get asked occasionally to come and speak to younger groups, younger hockey players and stuff, which is fun. I'm not personally ready to retire. I just turned 62 earlier this month. I
You look
feel
good,
I'm in
brother. You
I'm
look
feel
good.
I'm in good health, and I just feel with a lot of my brothers all coached hockey teams, NHL teams. I went at it a different angle. There was a little bit of coaching with Hockey Canada. I got the unique experience to help build a hockey team, the Minnesota Wild Hockey Club, to be a team builder and to be in a group of individuals that were all these guys ever did was win Stanley Cups. We're talking the Jock Lemaire's of the world, the Doug Risebrows of the world, and even Larry Robinson came around, was kind of an eye in the sky, was kind of like a mentor to me, like Jock was. These guys and Doug Risebrow, to get an opportunity to build a hockey team, people said, well, why don't you coach them? I'm going like, how many people get an opportunity, not just to be interviewed for a job like this, but to get one and help build a National Hockey League franchise? It taught me so much about the business side of the game and how it overlapped with the hockey side. It taught me about so many things about the business that my other brothers also kind of didn't get. They didn't get that opportunity, and I chose to go down that path. And it was everything from scouting to all different aspects in the organizations that you're part of, and that's where I feel in today's game, with some of the challenges that some of these organizations are having today. I really feel and I really want to be able to try and have that opportunity to go back and maybe help advise, consult, whatever you want to call it, in some of these organizations, because I think if we're going to be honest, there's some organizations that could use people
Like you.
like that. So I pay attention to the game. I watch a ton of games. It drives my wife nuts. She's an early riser. She has to be in school by shortly after 7 every morning. And so she's to bed early. She's a yoga nut. She's a health nut. She's a hiker. So I got to try and keep up with her, right? But there's nights she'll go to bed at 9 o'clock and she'll go, okay, you've watched 2 games. How many more are you going to watch tonight? And that's just the way I am. I stay very connected. I watch as many games as I can. I get a chance with my son, Luke, who is in Sabres organization and is taking on some new responsibilities here. He's traveling more and doing a lot more with the group or with the team. So this has been the last year. So go and spend some time with him and watch how he does his job and what he's thinking in today's game. And I think I love about what his job is that he knows how how the game works today, but he's still old school. And he said, Dad, he goes, just give me one, find one or two of these guys that can pull a locker room in, because he says, oh my God, they're so hard to find nowadays. It's just not out there. He's invited me to come along on some trips, which I've done 2 last year. I've done already one this year. I'll do one in after the new year, just to go watch games with him. And he said, Dad, just see if you're seeing what I'm seeing. What are you thinking? Am I thinking the same thing? Be that second set of eyes for me. Your experience, can you help? And I said, I'd love to. And so that's been good for me to kind of get out there and see people, but also see how he does his job. He's in an organization that I think are like probably a handful of organizations that they're they're a ways out of it, but they're also very close to being right in it too. Because it doesn't take a lot to change a locker room nowadays, and if you can get especially that organization, you get one or two more guys involved and on board inside the room, they're like a handful of other teams. They're a ways away, but they're right there.
Are you surprised that is that element of the player, the character of the player, it's so hard to find?
100%. I think we've taken the Brad Mays out of the game in minor hockey. All the hockey academies it's become a rich man's sport in terms of getting these kids. There's very few minor hockey organizations, all these academies. And, you can't find these guys in Yellowgrass, Saskatchewan or Red River, Manitoba anymore because those poor kids got nowhere to play. But I think we all need to dig a little deeper and go look in some of those places because there are kids out there, they're dying to get that chance. Their families can't afford to put them in these academies. And I really think that you need to find those guys. They're out there. Those kids are out there.
Well said.
Yeah, absolutely. That glue guy or glue person comes from that, building camaraderie, building that teammanship. Like, I'm sure you didn't play hockey, every season, all season back in the day, like the rest of us. We played baseball, we played hockey, we did, some of us played lacrosse. You were able to engage and build within the group. There's so many people now are, at a very young age, they'll go into these academies and that is their full focus is hockey, right? So, and it tends to be that little kind of change, what we've seen a bit, that glue piece is missing, because now we don't interact the way we used to, or there's not a new team or new process, right? So I find that so true to where we are now. We're missing that, and I think you're right on Buffalo. I think they are on the cusp. Look at the Sharks. Look at look at the Ducks. They were struggling, and also some changes, a couple add-ons, and some blue people that they've added to that talent pool. You've got some of these seasoned guys that come in and do something that it's worth so much more. And that's what builds a team, that builds that whole process. Those are the things I miss most, where I sure, like when you retired, Rich, was there a transition? Did you struggle a little bit? Were you sure you were going to go into something, or was it just that you missed the process? Well, give me a little line on that. I know Brad's out for a minute, but he'll pop back in.
Rock, I did. I had to retire because of a back injury. It was my first major injury in my career, and I was done. And I was still young, and I had a young family at home, and I was scared. How was I going to provide for my family? Grade 12 education, getting back into farming and owning property and buying property and equipment was a lot of money. And I was very fortunate to have Hockey Canada come along with the Tom Rennies of the world and the Andy Murrays. And these guys asked me if they'd come and help put some world teams together. And it kind of got the bug in me about, okay. And then they said, you could you could probably get involved because your knowledge in the game.
Me?
And then I was very lucky. The 2 years I was at Hockey Canada, I had Brian Murray and Pat Quinn, two great hockey people who were like dads, father figures, mentors, and they're the ones that pushed me along that path. And I was lucky to get an interview and be hired by the Wild, and my career took off from there. So 26 years in three different organizations after that.
That's incredible, man. It's incredible. The value that you and your family add to the game is, just the experience and that, the hard work. Like I always pictured back, when I first met Brian and heard about all the brothers. And this is all before the internet and all that stuff. But I pictured you guys growing up with a hockey stick in one hand and a farming tool in the other, right? I mean, that's
Exactly. It's exactly what
hard work aspect, right? I know you're tight for time, and I know you probably have to go rescue your daughter, but I just got two more quick questions to
Sure.
ask, if that's okay.
Yeah. Awesome.
We call it the overtime questions. Tell us about one of the best pranks that you've ever seen within your world or heard of. You don't have to tell names. Just give us a little juicy gossip on a prank. It's a tough one, right?
We had a few of them that we probably couldn't talk about.
You can talk about anything on here. No names. There's
I think the
no
best
worries
thing we
here. We
had
don't
was
have any
was
sponsors
what
to bother, but we are
the
always
be-
looking.
I would say with my brother Brent in the Stanley Cup playoffs, St. Louis versus Chicago, Game 1 in Chicago, the old stadium. The morning skate after the morning skate, the old narrow hallways in the dungeons of the Chicago Stadium. I snuck around out of our locker room after the morning skate, and I knew how Brent was so particular about how he was wanting to get his sticks ready before he went home or to the hotel for the game and come back. And all his sticks were all taped. He always had 4 or 5 ready to go. They're all taped, all ready to go. He didn't have to touch them. Picked them up and went out and played. I took a hacksaw. I found his sticks, snuck in, took his sticks. I took a hacksaw. Remember the old, you get that little plastic stripe wrapped down towards the bottom of the
best.
shaft. I took every stick and I cut every shaft partway through, then took a black marker and covered it up. And then we went out and warm up that night. And he was breaking all of his fucking sticks.
Yeah.
And fine, we got to center ice to the 3-on-2s, the regroups. I went over to Captain. I said, Brent, what the fuck is going on with your sticks? And he looked at me and goes, you fucking asshole.
Think you froze on us, Brad.
Yeah,
I'll jump in with one more. So if you were to play one game right now with the best players that you feel, give me your top, your 2 defensemen, your 3 forwards, and your goaltender for, say, Team Canada.
Well, for me, it's easily Drew Doughty. I just think I love Drew Doughty. Up front, I'm a big Andrzej Kopitar fan. Always have been. The LA Kings and the game's going to miss him after this year. And obviously, some of these other guys named Crosby, McKinnon, and McDavid. Sometimes you get caught, you go into games, you're working for an organization, you go to games and you become a fan because you see how special these players are. But when you talk about those type of guys I just said, it's just not they're special players, they're great people. And that says a lot about our game.
Hey, Richie, there's a young player and he's injured now, but Connor Bedard, you and I got to watch him in Saskatoon a couple years ago in his draft year. What do you see his ceiling being? Because this year's a breakout year for him.
Well, unfortunately, with the shoulder injury, so he's probably not going to make Team Canada because of the deadlines on that. But I think it's all become a part of growing up. He's becoming a man. I saw how special he was that night as a freaking 16-year-old Brad, and to see him do the things, and I think he got kind of a bit of a bad rap last year playing on not a very good hockey team. It was part of a growing up process, how to handle the negativity around him and the lack of success. But he went home this summer. He turned down the offer to go play for Team Canada at the World Championships last spring. Turned down that because he felt he needed an extra month of training, and he took full advantage of it. He came back a much stronger player, a better looking player, a more confident player, and look where he is today. Other than the injury, get him some more good hockey players. I think he's just starting to scratch the surface.
Yeah, he's nasty to watch. There's no question about it. What a shot.
Yeah.
Yeah, the release is incredible on that guy. I mean, yeah, I think they're only going up. He's amazing. He's got some good people around him that are truly helping out quite a bit. I love that ad for Donato on that Chicago team. He is just bread and butter. I love that
Yeah.
guy. Love him.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. Well, you have any other questions, Mayday?
You know what?
We've
I could sit
kept
here and talk to you, Richie, all day long. So I appreciate you coming on with us, but I enjoy our time together. Truly, we've don't know each other too well, or certainly haven't spent a ton of time in this life together. But when we've been together, there's a real connection. And you and your brothers, your brother Ronnie for sure, because that's who I see most often. I'm in love with the Sutters. I love what you've done for the game of hockey. Your family's legacy in the game. Obviously, everybody that's coming after you, but the way you treat people, the way you treat me, I just say thank you. I'm a better person for knowing you. And truly,
Well,
you are a leader, and you do deserve to be back somewhere in an organization that needs help, to be a mentor, to be of service to them. I'm your biggest advocate. There's no question about it.
well, Brad, thank you. My feeling is much the same towards you. One of the coolest things that we have about this game is the opportunity to spend time together, and the special times and the importance and how much value I take from a lot of you guys, and it's particular so many of the guys I never played with. Now that guys I only played against, and now to do the things that we can do together now is we're very lucky people.
I second that.